Hello and welcome to the DCL podcast. My name's Steve Creasy, inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, hello and welcome once again to the inaugural Sailing of the DCL podcast. Again, my name is Steve Creasy and I'll be your host for this show. In this first episode 0.0, I'm going to title it An Introduction to the DCL podcast. DCL obviously standing for Disney Cruise Line. And in this episode, I thought I'd talk a little bit about myself and introduce myself to you, the listeners, and why I decided to start this podcast. We'll talk a little bit about the show and what it's going to be about, and then finally we'll wrap it up with just a quick look at what the first episode will be. Well, a little bit about myself. I am currently married to my best friend and favorite travel partner out here on the West Coast. We have two boys, 6 and 10, and an English Labrador Retriever. So it's pretty much chaos at our house all the time. So to add to the chaos, I decided, why not start a podcast to add to everything else that is going on with our lives. I currently work for a major airline out here on the West Coast and get the opportunity to fly all over the United States, mostly down to Mexico. A lot of time spent out to the East Coast in Boston, Orlando, and DC, and then at least once or twice a month I get a chance to go out to the Hawaiian Islands as well. So I've been a long-time traveler. I love travel. My wife and I both love travel, and we're kind of forcing it on our kids as well, and they've started to embrace it as well. They have become two great little travelers as well. So why start a podcast on the Disney Cruise Line when there's already so many Disney websites and Disney podcasts out there? Well, I first started listening to podcasts around 2014. Being a big Disneyland fans and DVC members in Aulani, one of the first shows that I kind of gravitated towards was Wedway Radio. I really enjoyed the history and the current events that Nate and Matt covered in their shows. I love the honesty, and I love just the camaraderie that they had, and kind of the inspiration that they brought weekly to those of us who love all things Disney. And so from there, it took me on to find many other podcasts, as many of you have, I'm sure, out there to listen to. In about 2014 as well, my wife and I took our first cruise. We took it on Norwegian Cruise Lines out to the Mediterranean. And she'd actually been on a cruise before, but I hadn't. And I didn't really know what to expect. But I came back from that experience just loving everything about cruising, from the cabins to the ships to the service to the travel, pretty much everything about it. So it just kind of fell naturally that the next cruise we took, being Disney fans, was on the Disney Wonder out of Vancouver up to Alaska. We took that with my parents for their 50th wedding anniversary and just had a blast. Knowing what we knew about Disney, we kind of went into it with a lot of expectations, and they were totally exceeded by our experience up there. And hopefully I'll at some point maybe go back and touch on our cruise to Alaska as well. So from there, we ended up signing up for another one, which we just got back from this past summer. We took it to Norway. We left out of Dover in May. So as far as taking Disney cruises, we've taken 2 so far. And I can tell you that myself and my family are very passionate about sailing with Disney and just cruising in general. So once again, why start a podcast? Well, I had thought about doing a blog and writing about our travels and our experiences on the cruise lines that are on the different cruises that we've taken. But after listening to one of my favorite podcasts, the Distracted Life podcast by Kim Slusher, she did a show on National Podcast Day last year, and she talked about how many bloggers there are out there compared to people actually doing podcasts. And so she challenged anybody who was listening to step up, and if they had something to say and they wanted to talk about something, to go ahead and take that step and begin a podcast of their own. So here I am. Kim has kind of been my inspiration to start this podcast and to really branch out things that are going on in my life, to learn the technology, to reach out to those fans out there who are as passionate about cruising with Disney Cruise Line as I am. So that's a little bit about myself, a little bit about why I'm starting this podcast. So what can you expect in the shows that I hope to bring to you? The way I kind of look at it, is that when I say the DCL podcast, Disney Cruise Line is going to be our home port. But being a traveler and having a chance to travel pretty much weekly as I do, the travel industry is changing. It's always changing. It's always been changing rapidly. So on top of Disney Cruise Line, what I'm hoping to do is that's going to be our home port. That's going to be our focus week in and week out. But we're also going to talk about different areas of travel which you may not have thought of, or which are affecting it the next time you go on or you are planning your Disney cruise. As an example to that, one of the first episodes I have already slated for you is with a good friend of our family's who is running Airbnbs. And I think that that's a neat topic to touch on, because that's something that I have never actually done before, stay in an Airbnb. But when you book a cruise out of Miami, Vancouver, maybe out of San Diego, going down to Mexico, one of the great ways to stay is at an Airbnb rather than going to the traditional hotel, which is what, at least for myself, the thing that I think of. So that's kind of an example of how I'm looking to kind of branch out a little bit on top of talking about Disney Cruise Line, but also talking about other aspects of travel which may affect you the next time you take a cruise. In addition to talking about travel, one of the other things that I really enjoy is history. And I will definitely not consider myself anything more than an amateur historian, but I have done a little bit of research on the beginnings of the Disney Cruise Line. And the first episode that I'm going to put up after this one, is going to be about the Big Red Boat. And like I said, I'm just an amateur historian. I don't pretend to know every angle or everything that there is about the beginning of the Disney Cruise Line, but I find it very fascinating and very interesting. So hopefully as the show goes along, I can bring some different topics as well as we look back on the history of the Disney Cruise Line, or maybe some of the history of the ports and what happened in the ports and why Disney picks the ports that they do pick for you to visit. So that's kind of the show in a nutshell to begin with, and we will see where it grows from there. Well, I'd like to thank you for listening to this first podcast and joining me on the first sailing of the DCL podcast. If you want to get in touch with me, the best way to do that initially for now is through Twitter, and you can reach me at DCL Podcast. Once again, that's on Twitter at DCL Podcast. So again, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this first episode of the DCL Podcast, and I'd like to wish you and your families safe travels wherever your next travels may take you, and look forward to seeing you on episode 1.0, which should be out shortly.